My sister stole my 21st birthday. I stood in the corner as they totally ignored me. Months later, they realized what they'd lost, but it's too late. Crystal chandeliers illuminated the country club's ballroom. White flowers cascaded from every table centerpiece, and a 3-tiered cake dominated the dessert table. Everything seemed ideal for a 21st birthday celebration, mine, particularly. Except that nothing from that night belonged to me anymore. I stood at the entryway, watching visitors arrive with wrapped presents and cheerful faces. My gut wrenched as each individual passed by me without regard, straight to the receiving line where my family waited. The outfit I had spent weeks picking suddenly felt uncomfortable on my skin. Mom's navy blue silk, which she had convinced would photograph brilliantly, suddenly appeared to be a costume for another person's performance. "There's the birthday girl," my Aunt Karen said, racing past me with her arms wide. For one foolish second, I assumed she was referring to me. Then I watched Mom hug Olivia, my 23-year-old sister, who swirled in a champagne-colored gown that most likely cost more than my whole college fund. Mom came at my elbow, her expression tense with that special brand of irritation she held just for me. "Why are you lurking over here? Go help your sister greet people. This is her special night." The words landed like a physical blow. Her special night. Mom, it is my birthday. I am turning 21 today. She waved her hand dismissively, already surveying the room for more pressing issues. Olivia remarked that she never had a real 21st birthday celebration because your father was unwell that year. When she mentioned it a few months ago, we believed that combining the parties would be more feasible. Don't be selfish about this. The word lingered in the air between us. Accurate and familiar. I'd heard variants of that throughout my life whenever I desired anything that contradicted Olivia's wants. Birthday celebrations are organized around her college finals. Family trips are arranged for her semester breaks. Christmas mornings were postponed because she required additional sleep following night shifts at the hospital where she worked as a physician assistant. We could have had simply 2 parties. I managed to speak barely above a whisper. Mom's laughter was frigid. "Do you have any idea how much this venue costs? Be grateful we're celebrating you at all. Most parents wouldn't go through this trouble." She vanished into the crowd before I could react, leaving me standing alone while servers passed around champagne flutes and hors d'oeuvres. The DJ began playing a pop tune that Olivia liked, and I saw my sister dance with Dad in the center of the room while everyone cheered. Nobody appeared to notice that the real birthday girl was absent from the spotlight. My phone vibrated with a text from Megan, my best friend since middle school. "Running late? Could you please save me a seat at your table?" I looked at the seating map displayed on an easel near the door. Table 1 includes Rebecca and John, my parents, Olivia, Ethan, Olivia's boyfriend Karen, and a variety of family friends. My name appeared at Table 7, hidden in the back corner beside distant cousins I scarcely knew, and my gray aunt, who was mostly deaf. The tears began before I could stop them. I ducked into the restroom, pressing cold paper towels over my eyes to remove any remaining makeup. The visage in the mirror appeared youthful and dumb. How had I allowed myself to hope that tonight would be different? Every milestone in my life had gone just like this, with Olivia taking center stage while I stood in the wings. When I emerged, the celebration was in full flow. Olivia held court at a table surrounded by her hospital pals, who were all laughing at a tale she was telling. Mom and Dad were nearby, grinning proudly. The cake had been carried out, and I observed with dull resignation that it read, "Happy 21st birthday, Olivia," in a looping pattern. No mention of my name anywhere. "Excuse me." A waitress approached me with a tray of champagne. "Are you at the birthday party?" The question almost shattered me. I took a glass, even though I wasn't supposed to, and drank it in 3 gulps. The bubbles burnt my throat, but the tiny buzz helped to take the edge off my shame. People around me danced, laughed, and praised someone who had already had her moment 6 years prior. Olivia had used my real 21st birthday as a handy pretext to relive her glory days. Megan eventually came, took one glance at my face and pulled me into a tight hug. "What happened? You look devastated." I recounted everything in a jumble of words. Her look changed from surprise to rage as she swept the room, taking in every detail I mentioned. "Are you kidding me? This is insane. Where's your cake? Your presents?" "There." I indicated to the gift table, which was overflowing with boxes and bags. Most of them have Olivia's name on the tags. People thought they were coming to her party. Megan grabbed my hand. "We're leaving right now. I can't just leave my own birthday party. It's not your party anymore." She was already leading me to the exit. "Come on, We'll go somewhere that actually appreciates you. I returned my gaze to my family. Mom laughed at something Karen said. Dad wrapped his arm over Olivia's shoulders and looked at her with such apparent fondness that it pained to see. Neither of them had looked at me like that in years. Perhaps they never had. We got to the parking lot before Mom caught up to us. Her heels clicked on the pavement, and her cheeks flushed with rage. "Where do you think you're going? You can't just abandon your sister's party." "My sister's party?" I repeated, feeling the agony of the words. "It was supposed to be mine." "You're being dramatic. Get back inside and stop embarrassing this family." Something inside me shattered suddenly like ice fracturing under strain. "No." Mom's eyes widened. I had never rejected her a straight order before. "What did you say?" I said, "No, I'm done, I'm leaving, and I'm not coming back." "Don't be ridiculous. You're 21 years old with no job and no prospects. Where exactly do you think you'll go?" I'd gotten admitted to Stanford with a partial scholarship, which I'd done fully on my own because my parents were too busy managing Olivia's profession to assist with my college applications. The aim was to save money by living at home and commuting. That idea vanished in the country club parking lot. "I'll figure it out." My voice sounded more confident than I felt. I've been figuring things out by myself for years anyway. Mom's look changed from angry to hurt, if I felt she was capable of caring that much. "If you walk away now, don't expect us to bail you out when reality hits. You'll have to survive on your own." "I've been surviving on my own my entire life. You just never noticed." I jumped in Megan's vehicle before Mom could answer. Through the glass, I saw her stand there for a time, obviously torn between hauling me back inside and returning to her immaculate party. The party won. She always selected what made her life simpler, and dealing with my emotions had never been easy. Megan drove us to a restaurant on the outskirts of town, with faded vinyl booths and humming fluorescent lights. We got pancakes even though it was 9 p.m., and she let me cry into my coffee as I processed what I had just done. My phone burst with texts from family members, many of which were variants on the same topic. I was ungrateful, immature, and selfish for spoiling Olivia's evening. No one inquired whether I was all right. "You can stay with me," Megan said. "My parents won't mind. They've got the guest room just sitting empty." I accepted since I had no other choices. That night, I put my belongings into rubbish bags and left my parents' house while they were still at the golf club. They didn't get home until after midnight, and by then, I had already left. The next 2 years were the most difficult of my life. I worked 2 jobs while studying full-time at Stanford, living on 4 hours of sleep and quick ramen. Megan's parents charged me a low rent and treated me more kindly than my own family ever did. I kept my head down, focused on my academics, and gradually established a life that was wholly mine. During the first several months, my parents attempted to contact me several times. Mom left voicemails saying that I needed to apologize to Olivia for spoiling her celebration. Dad sent emails with subject lines like "time to come home" that I erased before reading. Finally, the texts ceased. They'd dismissed me as simply as they'd crossed an item off a grocery list. I switched majors to computer science after discovering an unexpected flair for coding. My teachers appreciated my work, and by junior year, I had earned an internship with a downtown computer company. The company was modest, yet inventive, and they took a risk on me when larger companies would not. I pushed myself into the job with the same zeal I'd used to survive, and it paid off when they gave me a full-time employment before graduation. The firm specialized in data analytics software, and I joined their development team at just the perfect time. We were creating something truly useful, a platform that assisted small businesses in making sense of their consumer data without the need to employ pricey consultants. My role centered on the user interface, making sophisticated information accessible to those who were not tech-savvy. It was extremely fulfilling to create tools that empowered people, perhaps because I knew what it was like to have no power at all. Lauren, my team leader, took on an unexpected role as a mentor. She was in her mid-30s, smart without being arrogant, and she saw potential in me that I didn't see in myself. During late-night code debugging sessions, she would tell anecdotes about her own complex family relationships. Her parents split when she was young, forcing her to negotiate 2 houses vying for her loyalties. She knew what it meant to be stuck between unrealistic expectations. "You work like someone with something to prove," she commented one evening when I was the last person in the office. "But you don't need to prove anything to anyone except yourself." The words stayed with me. I'd been under the impression that success would somehow legitimize my decision to leave, that accomplishments would retrospectively explain the agony of departing my family. But Lauren was correct. I sought outward acceptance because I had never learned to validate myself. Around this time, I began therapy. When I had full-time job with good benefits, my insurance covered mental health therapies. Lauren had recommended her own therapist after seeing how hard I was pushing myself. Dr. Patricia Lawson was a woman in her 50s with sympathetic eyes and a disconcerting capacity to see through whatever act I was putting up. During our first appointment, I spent 45 minutes explaining that I was okay and coping with regular stress. "Tell me about your family," she said in the way that therapists do, asking inquiries that appear casual yet cut right to the heart of the matter. I gave her the sanitized version first. Parents who were busy. A sister received more attention. Normal sibling rivalry stuff. Dr. Lawson listened without interrupting, her face bland yet attentive. When I finished, she asked a single follow-up question. "When was the last time someone in your family asked how you were doing and actually waited for an honest answer?" I opened my lips to speak, but realized I couldn't recall a single case. The stillness stretched between us, laden with implications I wasn't prepared to confront. That's when I began sobbing. And when I started, I couldn't stop. 3 years of buried sadness spilled out in Dr. Lawson's office, and she simply sat there, offering me tissues and allowing me to cry down. Therapy became my lifeline. Week after week I pulled aside layers of dysfunction that I'd accepted since it was all I'd ever known. Dr. Lawson helped me realize that my parents' emotional neglect was not my responsibility. Olivia's conduct was a sign of the poisonous system from which I had escaped. She educated me about concepts like scapegoat and golden child, which helped me understand my childhood. Your parents created a dynamic in which your sister was rewarded for simply existing, while you were punished for having needs, Dr. Lawson stated during one session. That's not normal sibling rivalry, that's structural favoritism, and it causes real psychological harm. Hearing it put that way, clinically and clearly, helped me stop blaming myself. I spent years wondering what was wrong with me that prevented my parents from loving me properly. Therapy showed that the problem had never been mine. They were damaged parents raising children in a dysfunctional system, and I had become collateral damage. My professional trajectory skyrocketed throughout my senior year. The startup secured many significant contracts and our workforce grew quickly. I was promoted to lead developer 6 months after graduating, which came with a significant rise. Suddenly I was earning enough money to not just live, but also thrive. I began actively paying off my school debts, chipping away at the burden that had seemed overwhelming only months earlier. My first significant purchase was an automobile. Nothing spectacular, simply a dependable car that meant I no longer needed to rely on public transit. I drove it off the lot and sat in the parking spot for 15 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, marveling at this concrete symbol of my independence. No one had co-signed for me. Nobody had given a single $1. This automobile belongs totally to me, and was achieved via my own efforts. By the time I was 21, I was earning more money than I had ever imagined. The startup had grown into something important, and my early engagement meant I had stock options that would vest over the following few years, potentially worth a lot of money if the firm remained on its current course. I moved into my own apartment in a high-rise near the river, purchased matching furnishings, and began creating the life my parents had always promised Olivia, but never me. My flat became my shelter. Floor-to-ceiling windows provided views of the Chicago skyline, and I'd stand there some mornings with my coffee, watching the city rise up and feeling as if I'd finally reached somewhere important. I decorated thoughtfully, selecting items that expressed who I was rather than who I believed I should be. Plants adorned the windowsills because I loved how they softened the contemporary lines. Books filled handcrafted shelves because reading was my childhood retreat. Art from local galleries adorned the walls because I wanted to encourage others to create something from nothing. Megan assisted me in hosting my first real dinner party in the new facility. She'd been my continuous support throughout everything, and her family had become an example of healthy relationships. Her parents treated me like a second daughter, attending my graduation when my own parents did not. They had handed me a card with a big check inside and a letter that said, "We're so proud of you." I sobbed as I read those 4 words, understanding how much I'd craved them my whole life. "Look at you," Megan exclaimed, gazing around my place with apparent delight. "You did this. All of this. Despite everything they put you through." "Because of everything they put me through," I said. "I wouldn't have fought this hard if I'd had an easier path." This was true. Even if admitting it seemed tough. My parents' neglect instilled in me a tenacity that I would not have had otherwise. I'd learned to fully rely on myself, to trust my own judgment, and to achieve achievement through pure tenacity. Those were useful skills, even if I wish I had learned them differently. Social media became a minefield during this time. I'd lock down my profiles after leaving the house, but I'd occasionally slip and see what my family was posting. Olivia's Instagram was a highlight reel of her purportedly ideal life, with romantic dates with Ethan, brunches with friends, and professional images from her hospital position. Mom's Facebook page was filled with enthusiastic messages about Olivia's successes. Each one reminded me of the accolades I had never gotten. I schooled myself to not look. Dr. Lawson called it protecting my peace, and she was correct. Every time I looked at those pages, I felt an old hurt reawaken. Better to concentrate on my own life, my own accomplishments, and my own carefully crafted pleasure. Work offered structure and purpose. Lauren elevated me to team leader when she took on a director post. Suddenly, I had 3 young devs reporting to me. The responsibility seemed great, but I tackled it in the same manner I did everything else. By working more than required and refusing to fail. My staff respected me not because I commanded it, but because I truly cared about their development and success. "You're really good at this," Marcus, one of my developers, said after I helped him debug a particularly difficult problem. "Like better than any manager I've had before." This praise caught me off surprise. I simply recall how it felt to be starting off without assistance. I attempt to be what I needed back then. That philosophy went beyond employment. I began volunteering at a youth coding program for impoverished children, teaching teens from disadvantaged backgrounds the skills that had rescued me. Watching children understand things and light up with possibilities seemed redemptive, as if I was returning what Megan's family had given me. Many of these kids came from much worse situations than mine, and their tenacity humbled me. Ashley, a 15-year-old girl, brought up horrible memories of my younger self. She was quiet and cautious, plainly intelligent, but thought she did not deserve possibilities. Her parents were going through a difficult divorce, and neither appeared really concerned about her mental well-being. Her aloof posture and cautious remarks reminded me of my own tale. "You're really talented," I told her one day after class. "Have you thought about studying computer science in college?" I said, "No." Olivia contacted me right away, her voice harsh with surprise. "You're seriously not coming to my wedding? I have a work commitment. I can't move." It was a simple lie. I'd mastered the art of deceiving myself. What job obligation could be more significant than your sister's wedding? This is an unforgettable occasion. Actually, based on divorce rates, it probably wasn't. But I kept it to myself. "I'm sorry, I can't make it. This is about the birthday thing, isn't it? You're still holding a grudge after 2 years." The nonchalant disregard of my anguish jarred something inside me. "You took my 21st birthday. You made it about yourself, and our parents let you do it. They've let you take everything from me my entire life. So no, I'm not coming to watch you have another perfect moment while I stand in the background pretending to be happy for you. You're being selfish." That term appeared again. Selfish. They often accused me of wanting anything for myself. Maybe I am, but at least I am open about it. I hung up before she could reply. My hands shook as I put down the phone, adrenaline coursing through me. I'd finally uttered what I'd needed to say for years, which felt both freeing and scary. Mom called next, followed by Dad and Karen. I let every call go to voicemail. Their communications had a predictable pattern. Disappointment, guilt-tripping, allegations of sabotaging another family gathering. Nobody questioned why I had said no. Nobody addressed the possibility that I could have genuine reasons for keeping my distance. I banned their numbers and returned to work. 2 months later, my business signed a large client, putting us on the map in the IT market. For the first time in my life, my stock options appeared to be significantly more valuable, and financial security appeared to be truly possible. The local business journal did a profile on young professionals making waves in Chicago's startup environment, and they interviewed me for it. I spoke on overcoming hardship, creating success from nothing, and the value of pursuing your own path even when others try to hold you back. The article got live on Thursday. By Friday morning, my band family members had discovered means to reach me via email, social media, and even had Karen visit my workplace. The article itself had been more illuminating than I had anticipated. The journalist, Christina Wu, had probing questions regarding my travels. She wanted the human interest angle, the hardship that led to achievement. I'd been cautious not to mention my family explicitly, but anyone who knew me would know the narrative. Christina had asked during our interview at a downtown coffee shop, "What drove you to succeed?" I considered sanitizing my response by using generic business talk like enthusiasm and hard effort. But her genuine desire compelled me to be honest. I wanted to show that I could create something worthwhile without the help that most people take for granted. I wanted to demonstrate that being underestimated does not define your value. The published essay included several quotes from me. There were images of me at my workstation, laughing with my development team as we stood in front of the city skyline. The headline stated, "From Survival to Success: How One Developer Built Her Empire Alone." Christina had interwoven my tale with bigger themes of self-made professionals, generational transitions and family dynamics, and the growing number of young people making their own paths. My phone started vibrating before I'd finished reading the online version. Text messages from former high school friends I hadn't communicated with in years. LinkedIn connection requests from individuals in my business were buried between the congrats and networking attempts. Messages from family members who had somehow slipped through my barriers. An email from Dad's work account arrived first. "Very proud of what you've accomplished. Would love to discuss the article over coffee. Your success deserves to be celebrated properly." The irony that he wanted to honor me now, after years of silence, did not escape me. He'd had several chances to be proud when I was suffering. When a single word of encouragement might have changed everything, he'd preserved his pride until I no longer needed it. Mom's email came from her book club account. "Because I blocked her main address, the story implied that we abandoned you. That is not fair or accurate. We gave you all we had. Please call me so that we may discuss this discreetly." Everything they owned. The sentence caused me to chuckle bitterly. They had handed Olivia all they owned. I had gotten the leftovers, crumbs and afterthoughts, and now that I'd succeeded despite their indifference, they sought to rewrite history and take credit for my tenacity. "Your mother is devastated," Karen told me in the foyer as I waited for security to take her out. "That article made it sound like they abandoned you." They abandoned me. I left home at 21, and none of them sought to figure out why. They were merely upset that I wouldn't go along with their ideal of the perfect family. Karen's expression curled with pain. She'd always been the family peacekeeper, smoothing out disagreements and pretending that chaos was usual. Seeing her forced to face the reality was surprisingly pleasant. "You don't understand the pressure Olivia's been under. She's had to live up to such high expectations, and I haven't." The words came out louder than I wanted. Other people in the foyer were gazing now, but I had stopped caring about scenes. Did anyone ever consider that maybe I had potential to? That maybe I could have been something special if you'd all given me half the attention you gave Olivia? Karen looked between us, evidently considering whether to continue pressing. The security guard waited patiently, having encountered such scenarios previously. I watched as she realized she had lost this particular war. "Just talk to your mother, please. She's not sleeping. This has been so hard on her." The hubris of making Mom the victim in this scenario nearly shattered me. It's been hard on her. She's had 3 years to reach out, to apologize, to show any interest in my life. Instead, she waited until a public article made them look bad. That's not love. That's damage control. Karen departed without answering. I stood in the lobby, quivering with adrenaline and rage, conscious of curious eyes on me. My company's head of human resources emerged from the elevator bank, having evidently observed at least some of the confrontation. "Everything okay?" she whispered gently, drawing me aside. "Family drama?" "I'm handling it." She nodded in agreement. "Take the rest of the day. Go home, decompress, do whatever you need to do. You're no good to us if you're running on emotional fumes." I wanted to debate to prove that I could get through anything. However, the concern in her look made me realize she was providing support rather than challenging my competence. "Thank you." Security came and Karen exited without more discussion. I walked up to my office, informed Lauren that I needed to go, and wept in my car for 15 minutes before driving home. The tears astonished me with their ferocity. I thought I was past allowing my family's rejection to harm me. But reading their notes and hearing Karen justify their actions reminded me of every childhood time when I needed them and they weren't there. Birthday parties where they failed to pick me up. School performances in which students arrived late and left early. Report cards that drew attention, while Olivia's produced celebratory feasts. I drove home in a trance, the city blurring beyond my windows. My phone continued to ring with alerts, a constant reminder that my private sorrow had become semi-public information. Several former instructors had contacted me, expressing remorse that they had not realized how horrible things were. A high school guidance counselor wrote me a note, stating she had always wondered what happened to me after graduation. The most unexpected communication was from Olivia's boyfriend Ethan. His message was brief. "Saw the article. I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better." I looked at those 8 words for a long time. Ethan had always been nice to me throughout our few interactions before I left, but he had never gotten involved in the family dynamics. Neither of the partners nor spouses ever did. They remained cautiously neutral, hesitant to jeopardize their status by calling out Abia's partiality. His apologies seemed genuine, but it also created suspicions. Did Olivia read the article? What did she say about it? Was she furious, defensive, or perhaps ashamed of how she contributed to my isolation? I returned home and glanced at my flat. I saw it for the first time in months. The furniture I had purchased, the paintings on the walls, the books on the shelves, everything mirrored the decisions I had made for myself. This room had no marks of my family's influence. I made this life on my own, and I did a darn good job of it. But standing in my lovely abode, surrounded by proof of my accomplishments, I felt hollow. The accomplishment was less meaningful without someone to share it with who actually understood the road. Megan and her family celebrated me, and I was thankful for them. But a part of me still desired recognition from those who had reared me, despite the fact that they had forfeited the right to do so. Dr. Lawson would claim this is natural, that children are programmed to want parental approval, even if their parents do not deserve it. She'd tell me that mending does not imply the wound stops hurting completely, it just means you learn to live with the scar. I prepared tea and laid down on my couch to read through all of the texts in order. Most were congratulatory. A few were from folks attempting to network their way into my firm. Several came from distant relatives, shocked that things had gotten so terrible in my own family, as if they hadn't been there for the most of it. The phone rang with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I responded. "It's me." Olivia's voice seemed altered, smaller somehow. "Can we talk? Really talk? Not just that surface-level coffee meeting." I should have said no. Every instinct told me to defend the boundaries I'd fought so hard to build. But some naive part of me imagined that we may eventually find our way to anything like a true relationship. "Fine, but I choose the location, and you come alone." We met in a park near the lake, neutral ground where neither of us had a home advantage. Olivia seemed exhausted, her makeup unable to conceal the dark rings beneath her eyes. She'd dropped weight, and her engagement ring reflected the afternoon sun. She carefully curled it around her finger. "I read your article," she stated without preface. "Is that really how you see us? Like we destroyed your life?" "You didn't destroy my life. You just made it harder than it needed to be." "I never intended—" She paused, as if to contemplate her remarks. "Okay, that's not true. I did mean to take your birthday party. Mom suggested it, but I jumped at the chance because I was jealous." The admission astonished me so much that I stared at her. "Jealous of what? Of you?" Olivia laughed, but it wasn't funny. "You always had this freedom I never got. You could mess up, and nobody cared because they weren't expecting anything from you anyway. Meanwhile, I had to be perfect every single second. Straight A's, perfect job, perfect boyfriend. The pressure never stops." When I turned 21, Dad was in the hospital recovering from his heart surgery. Mom was stressed and exhausted. My birthday got pushed aside, and I pretended it didn't matter. But it did. So when she suggested sharing yours, I jumped at it. "So you dealt with your pressure by making sure I had no support at all." "I dealt with it by making sure I always had the spotlight. If everyone was looking at me, they couldn't see how terrified I was of failing." She rubbed her eyes, smearing the mascara. "I'm sorry. I should have said that 2 years ago, but I was too proud. I'm sorry for taking your birthday. I'm sorry for never standing up for you when Mom and Dad treated you like an afterthought. I'm sorry for all of it." The apology came out differently than I had intended. I'd envisioned this moment numerous times, always seeing myself triumphant and unaffected, but hearing true guilt in her voice caused the rage I'd been holding to fracture. "I appreciate you saying that, but an apology doesn't undo 2 years of radio silence. I know I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I see what I did now, and I hate myself for it." We sat quietly for a time, watching joggers pass and dogs chase tennis balls. The city flowed around us, unconcerned with our modest family drama. "Are you really not coming to the wedding?" Olivia inquired. "I can't. Being around Mom and Dad, pretending everything's fine, watching them celebrate you again while I'm just supposed to smile and play along. I can't do it. It would undo all the progress I've made." "What if it wasn't like that? What if I told them they had to actually acknowledge what they did wrong before you'd consider coming?" "They'll never do that. They don't think they did anything wrong." Olivia arose, wiping grass from her jeans. "Then maybe it's time someone made them see it." I wasn't sure what she meant, so I let her go without asking for more information. We exchanged a quick hug that felt somewhat less theatrical than the last one, and I watched her walk back to her car with a sense of optimism kindling in my chest. 3 days later, the calls resumed, but this time, they were not furious. Mom left a voicemail asking if we might meet for lunch. Her voice was unsure in a manner I hadn't heard before. Dad wrote an email with the subject line, "I owe you an apology," that was many lines long, unlike his typical 2-sentence replies. Karen texted that she'd been thinking about our chat. I ignored them all for a week, seeking time to comprehend this abrupt change. Whatever Olivia had said or done had evidently broken through my family's carefully crafted denial, but I wasn't sure I had the stamina to cope with the fallout. Olivia then emailed me a video. It was poor phone footage from what appeared to be a family meal at my parents' place. The phone was tilted to record the dining room table, where Mom, Dad, Ethan and Olivia were seated with dishes in front of them. Olivia had clearly set up her phone on purpose, most likely leaned against something on the sideboard, judging by the wobbly start. The timestamp indicated that it was filmed the night following our park talk. "I need to say something," Olivia said into the speaker. "And you're all going to listen to the whole thing before anyone interrupts." The video ran for 17 minutes. Olivia shattered every justification my parents had ever used for treating me as an afterthought. She brought up particular incidences that I had forgotten about, such as anniversaries that had been eclipsed, accomplishments that had been reduced, and times when they had prioritized her comfort above my fundamental necessities. She described how they had used emotional manipulation to keep me submissive, making me feel selfish for seeking anything that inconvenienced them. Mom tried to intervene numerous times, but Olivia responded each time with, "I'm not finished." Dad sat there, appearing more uncomfortable, his face flushed with an emotion I couldn't identify via the blurry film. "You broke her," Olivia cried at the end, her voice shaking. "You damaged your own daughter because you were too lazy to love both of us equally, and when she attempted to tell you how much you had hurt her, you blamed her for being overly sensitive. You owe her more than just apologies. You owe her years of treatment expenses, wasted chances, and the childhood she should have had." The video finished with Mom sobbing and Dad sitting in startled silence, with Ethan's hand reaching into the camera to grasp Olivia's shoulder before the screen went black. I watched it 3 more times, each time bringing new waves of emotion. Anger at my parents for needing someone else to explain my pain before they believed it was real, gratitude to Olivia for finally using her golden child status to defend me, and grief for the relationship we could have had if she'd found the courage sooner. My phone rang with Olivia's number. "Have you watched it?" she inquired when I responded. "Yeah, I realize it doesn't change anything, but I wanted you to know I meant what I said at the park. I'm done enabling them." "What did they say once you stopped recording?" Mom attempted to excuse it. Dad agreed they had made a mistake, but he continued to downplay the severity of the situation. I informed them that until they sincerely analyzed their actions and made true atonement, I would restrict my contact with them as well. She paused. "I canceled the big wedding we had planned. Instead, we're holding a little event in City Hall. Fewer people, less stress, and no performance required." "Olivia, you were right about everything. I was so focused on meeting their expectations that I became a part of the issue. I do not want to be that person anymore." We chatted for another hour, truly talking this time, delving into years of dysfunction and misconnections. It wasn't easy, and we didn't always agree, but it felt authentic in a way our relationship had never felt before. Over the following 2 months, my parents made awkward attempts at reconciliation, with Mom suggesting coffee sessions where she asked about my life rather than only Olivia. Dad sent articles about my industry that showed he'd been paying attention to my career. Karen admitted she'd always known the favoritism was wrong but didn't want to rock the boat, and none of it magically fixed the damage. I still flinched when Mom criticized me, and I felt a surge of old resentment when Dad praised Olivia's accomplishments. But, slowly and painfully, we began to create something like a functional family dynamic. The actual shift occurred on my 22nd birthday, over a year after the piece was published and many months into our family's arduous reunion process. I hadn't planned anything spectacular since I was too used to disappointment to bother celebrating, but next morning, Olivia arrived to my flat with balloons and coffee from my favorite cafe. "Get dressed. We are going out. I have work. I've already cleared it with your supervisor. Come on." She arranged a whole day around things I enjoyed, including brunch at a place I'd mentioned in passing and a matinee showing of a movie I'd wanted to watch. Instead of the boutique she favored, we went shopping at bookshops, and we ate at a restaurant that featured spicy cuisine that she despised but I enjoyed. As the sun sank, We sat on the same seat in the same park where we had our honest chat months before. This time, the stillness between us seemed natural rather than imposed. "Thank you," I blurted out, "for today, for the video, for finally seeing me. I should have seen you all along. I am still sorry it took so long." My phone rang with messages from various family members wishing me a happy birthday, including one from my mother, who shared a photo of the cake she had prepared, a basic vanilla one with my name spelled perfectly in frosting. Dad's message expressed pride in the woman I'd become, and Karen sent a gift of dancing animals that made me smile despite its ridiculousness. They were small gestures, nothing that could compensate for years of neglect, but they were genuine efforts from people who were genuinely trying to do better. I couldn't forgive everything, and I might never fully trust them again, but I could acknowledge the attempts and see where they led. "Are you happy?" Olivia inquired abruptly. "Are you honestly satisfied with your life?" I reflected about my apartment, my profession, the connections I formed, and the freedom I had battled for. "Yeah, I actually am good." "You deserve to be." We sat there until the streetlights came on, two sisters who had spent years hurting one another and were finally learning to live together. It wasn't a fairy tale ending where everything was perfectly resolved, but it was honest, messy, and real in a way that our relationship had never been before. The family didn't fall apart as a result of Olivia's confrontation, but rather strengthened as we all stopped pretending the dysfunction didn't exist. We had weekly dinners where people actually listened to each other instead of just waiting for their turn to talk. Mom was seeing a therapist to work through her favoritism patterns, and Dad had started making an effort to attend my work events in the same way he had always shown up for Olivia's. Progress was slow and imperfect. Some days I wanted to yell at them for wasting so many years, and other days I was thankful we'd made our way here at all. The birthday celebration that pushed me away eventually forced all of us to confront things we'd been ignoring. 2 years after leaving that country club, I stood in front of the mirror in my flat, preparing for Olivia's little city hall wedding. I was wearing the navy blue silk dress from my 21st birthday because it fit better now, broken in, and comfortable. The woman looking back at me bore little resemblance to the heartbroken teenager who'd fled her own party. She appeared stronger, harder in some ways, but also more certain of who she was and what she deserved. She'd experienced desertion and created something beautiful from the wreckage. She'd discovered that the people who loved you didn't always know how to express it, and that you sometimes had to educate them. Olivia texted me, "Thank you for coming. It means everything." I grinned and grabbed my coat. The family waiting for me at City Hall wasn't perfect. We still had years of repair work ahead of us, but they and I were both trying, and sometimes that was enough.